Good evening. I'm Brady Burrell for KQKI News. Thank you for joining us for tonight's Welcome Back to School Forum in partnership with St. Mary Parish Schools, who will discuss their reopening plan for the 2020-2021 school year. Now, while we realize this is a sensitive subject, we ask that you please keep your comments respectful and do not use profanity. Now, let's welcome Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Teresa Bagwell, who will open this evening's forum.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening and for your interest in the reopening process of our public schools. Our teachers, principals are all in the schools currently. If you've driven by a school, I'm sure you've seen a parking lot full of cars trying to prepare their classrooms for the reopening and for the arrival of students. Currently, the governor has established a phase 2 reopening process. So for district schools, that means that we have certain requirements that we have to fulfill. One of those requirements is that every child will be required to have a temperature check, or basically a wellness check, upon entering the school. Our schools will be able to conduct this as part of their breakfast in the classroom process. So once students arrive, either by parents dropping them off or by bus, they will go through a wellness check. Prior to that, we ask that parents conduct a wellness check before the child leaves the house. That way, when the child arrives, we have at least some confidence that the child is not sick upon arrival. Because if a child is ill upon arrival at school, we are required to isolate that child for further medical assessment. So we want to enlist the assistance of parents as we prepare for the reopening and in making sure that our students are safe and well when they arrive at school and then prior to their first period class. During the phase 2 reopening process, bus transportation will be limited to 50%. So students assigned to the bus will be asked to sit separated from one another, and the buses will have their windows down given weather conditions so that we can, again, provide for the safety and wellness of students. As students move throughout the campus, there will be multiple entry and exit points to help establish the 6-foot distancing that is required for the safe reopening. And in the classroom, desks will be separated so that, again, we have the social distancing necessary. For grades 3 through 12, students are required to wear masks. As many of you have heard Governor Edwards speak, this mask requirement is socially wide. It's not just going to be in the school system, but it's going to be any time that you're in public. And again, it's to protect people. It's to ensure that we are not spreading COVID beyond what it has already spread. So tonight, we're going to focus on 3 things. We're going to redefine and discuss a little bit more detail those health and wellness guidelines that are going to be put in place at schools to provide for a safe reopening for our kids. And then we're going to talk about the instructional process. What is that going to look like under the reopening guidelines for phase 2? So I want to introduce to you our presenters this evening, beginning on my right with Miss Nikki Freyu. She's the elementary and middle school supervisor. To her right, I have Dr. Buffy Fagenbush. She is the supervisor of high schools and our career and tech development. To my left, we have Miss Deborah McClarty. Ms. McClarty is the supervisor of special services, so she will discuss the approach that we will have with special services students tonight. And then to her left, we have Mr. Joe Stadalis. Mr. Stadalis is the assistant superintendent, and he's going to begin tonight to give you more details, again, about the process of reopening when it comes to the health and wellness of our kids.
Thank you, Dr. Bagwell. First topic I want to mention is face coverings. Face coverings must be worn in an appropriate manner by faculty and students in grades 3 through 12 to the maximum extent possible during phases 1 and 2. A face covering is defined as a piece of material used to cover both the nose and mouth for the purpose of forming a barrier to droplets of airborne particles that are coughed, sneezed, or exhaled when talking. Face coverings are meant to protect both the wearer of the face covering and surrounding individuals. Recommendations for cloth face coverings from the Louisiana Department of Education include the following. Face coverings should fit snugly but comfortably against the side of the face, completely covering the nose and mouth. Face coverings should include multiple layers of fabric and should be laundered and dried without damage or change in shape. Face coverings should allow for breathing without restrictions. Regarding the students, face coverings are aligned with the dress code policy and should not create a disturbance. Face coverings should not become a discipline issue. No logos except those that have the school's name, mascot, or other logo as approved by the school to promote school spirit. No written statements or inappropriate pictures, gestures are permitted. Masks and neck gaiters shall be solid in color or an appropriate print. Bandanas, regardless of the color, are not to be utilized as face coverings. Plastic shields are not to be worn by students. While inside the school facility, students in grades pre-K through 2 may wear a face mask or a face covering if desired. While inside the school facility, children under 2 and individuals with breathing difficulties have the option not to wear a face covering. The next topic is water. As recommended by the Strong Start 2020 LDOE document, water fountains will be turned off. Feel free to send your child to school with an unopened bottle of water. Water bottle fountains for schools have been ordered, and at least one will be installed at every school by the beginning of school. Water bottles have been ordered for every student and faculty member in the district. The next topic, hygiene. Students will wash their hands upon arriving at school and will wash their hands several times throughout the school day. Every classroom will be supplied with hand sanitizer for student and teacher use. Frequently touched surfaces will be cleaned several times throughout the course of the day. Information signage regarding good hygiene, social distancing will be posted throughout school facilities to remind students and staff to practice healthy habits. Cleaning. Custodial staff will be trained on appropriate sanitation measures for restrooms, classrooms, and frequently touched surfaces. School facilities will be cleaned daily with an approved disinfectant. On Wednesday of every week, school facilities will be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Sedalis. The bottom line, parents and citizens, is that we want our schools to reopen. It is our mission to educate children and to help them become whatever it is that they aspire to be. In doing so, we know that the safety and the wellness factor is pivotal. And in order to bring our students back, we have to ensure that we have provided every measure of safety and wellness that has been promoted by our health professionals. We strive to provide a quality education for students, and the first step in that education is providing a safe and healthy environment in which kids can learn. So now let's talk a little bit about the learning environment that's going to be available upon the reopening of schools. We're going to begin with Ms. Nikki Freyu, who will talk to you about the elementary and middle school instructional day.
Good evening, everyone. First off, let's all take a deep breath. Please know that we have worked diligently for the last 3.5 months. Maybe from the outside it appears that rash decisions are made, but we want you to understand that we've made decisions, and when the governor changes or the CDC changes, we have to change to meet their policies. So we want you to know that when these things were taken into consideration, all of our elementary students are returning for an in-house education. That wasn't a rash decision. The Louisiana Department of Education conferred and received recommendations on school reopening schedules from state medical professionals, including the Office of Public Health, Center for Disease Control, Children's Hospital of New Orleans, and Ochsner Foundation. And after receiving all those, it was determined that the best educational decision for our elementary students is to report back to school daily. So please know, we will do everything that Mr. Sedalis spoke about, and then I'll address some additional safety considerations in elementary school. In our elementary school, our students are in static groups. So yes, we're departmentalized, but the same group of students are going to move together. In between those moves, the tables and the desk and any high-touch surfaces will be cleaned between the groups. We've also had to adjust some schedules. If you've ever been to grandparents' lunch, you know those cafeterias are full of students. Well, to follow CDC guidelines, we have to keep it to a minimum of 25 students in that room unless you have a divider. So you will notice our elementary schools have had to redo schedules. So you may have some children in a lot of schools eating lunch in their classrooms where they can remain in those small static groups. Also, morning arrivals. Each school will let you know the way the morning arrivals are going to change because we want to keep those groups small. We're doing all of these things because your children are so important to us. They're our future, so please know we're making these safety considerations so that your children can return safe. Mask breaks. You know I talk a lot, and these masks are hard to do. Our children are going to be given those easy mask breaks during the day. Face masks are protecting your children and the other children. Mr. Stallis spoke and said in pre-K to second grade that they may wear them. It is our recommendation that they wear them, but we know if you've seen those cartoons, they're going to have them over their eyes, they're going to have them as a slingshot, and the teachers are just going to help them. We want them to use them as protection. So in elementary school, we are making all those. How can you help us? One of the big questions that I read on the survey was what's going to happen to attendance? Are we going to get those letters? Please know the attendance letters are not something that we choose to do. It's mandated that when your children miss school, they'll receive those letters. We know this year it's going to be a little different. And your schools are going to appreciate those phone calls in the morning when you say, Brady's running fever, he's not going to make it, or Red has been up sick all night, and you're keeping him home. The schools are going to document those calls, okay? But we need you to notify the school and keep your children at home if they are having any of those symptoms. Another favor, children pick up from you. If you're negative and you're talking about how bad the masks are, guess what? Your kids do too. But if you make it a positive aspect, your kids are not going to mind near as much wearing those face masks. So help us with that. I can tell you, as a mom of older children, I didn't do a good job hand washing. So start working now on how the appropriate hand washing can take place. That is the big thing, keeping our hands clean. So we're going to make sure that our children are washing their hands every 2 hours or having their hand sanitizer, because that's going to be a key in our elementary schools, because those hands touch everything. And the last thing that you can help us with, you know, it says 6 feet where possible. If you can teach your children to use the arms out distancing, a child's arms are probably about a 4.5 foot distance. So if you can start teaching that with your children, that will help them at school as well. I know one of my dear friends said her daughter talked to her kids about social distancing, and the second they got to the swimming pool, they went to embrace. So we're going to work on it, and you're going to work on it. You guys have been out in public, so just help us out with that. Those are ways that we can show that we're a team, because we all want what's best for your children. Moving on to middle school. Middle school is a little bit different. We're going to be doing a hybrid schedule in middle school. So half of our middle school students will go to school on Monday and Thursday, and the other half on Tuesday and Friday. That's going to help with our social distancing in our middle schools. We have also switched, in order to limit that transition time, to a 6-period day instead of an 8-period day. This is allowing longer time in those classrooms and less cleaning between the classes. Travel patterns have been established. You know, all of our elementary schools, we walk in a straight line and the teacher's next to them. In the middle school, the children travel on their own. But our administrators have worked so hard and planned so that it's going to continue to promote that social distancing in our middle school hallways during that transition time. They have also had to adjust their lunch schedule, and they're being very creative to accommodate those capacity limitations. Same with elementary. Arrival and dismissal may vary from school to school, so they will tell you, you will receive all that information from the school's administrator. Another thing that we're adding to our middle schools, this has caused a lot of uneasiness, not only in parents, because we're worried about our children, but also in the children themselves. So we're going to have an increased focus on the social and emotional learning of our students. A sample schedule for our middle school will show that they're going to follow a normal period both days. So on Monday, the lesson that's being taught, then they'll be given assignments to do at home on Tuesday. The group that comes Tuesday will have that same instruction, given the assignments to continue on the next day. All of these things were put into place to provide our middle school students a continued learning opportunity where the teachers are there to guide them.
And now we'll move on to high school. High schools, like middle schools and elementary schools, will need to follow the same safety guidelines that have been established by the state. And in doing so, they have converted their schedule and their process for education as well. So we'll move to Dr. Buffy Fagenbush, who'll talk about the changes in high school.
You stated, we have all been working together very closely to ensure that our students are going to continue to achieve. And we want to make sure that we don't just survive during this period, that we thrive. And we know that together, working with our community stakeholders, with our parents, and if we continue to plan and adapt as the government gives us new mandates and restrictions, we know that we can make this work. One of the things that we had to do this year, we had a good debate on what was going to happen with 9 through 12. As our kids come to school in high school, it's very important that they're earning the Carnegie credits that they need in order to graduate from high school. That was a huge question that was continually asked on the survey by parents. And also, I get that all the time, no matter if I'm at Walmart or wherever I am, they want to know, are we going to be able to graduate this year? Are we going to be able to earn the credits that we need to go forth? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. So to make sure that we're able to support the learning environments for our students this year in 9 through 12, we do make a major decision in how that will look. We will be moving just for this year to address the COVID issues from a 7-period day to a flex hybrid schedule. That schedule will have students coming to school, just as Ms. Free just discussed, for 6 through 8, 2 days a week. And then they will work virtually and learn at home for 3 days a week. They will have an A and B group, and they will come 2 days a week. The beauty of this is they will have 4 classes before Christmas. They will complete those courses, and then they will have 4 classes after Christmas. They will begin them anew in January and earn 4 different Carnegie credits. Seniors, I've been asked this by not just the seniors, but their parents, will we get to leave early like we have been able to do in the past? And the answer to that is yes. However, each senior will have to stay for 3 periods for the first half of the year and 3 periods for the second half of the year. There's been a lot of transition with the scheduling, and we've been working very closely with school administrators and guidance counselors to make sure that students are going to receive the Carnegie credits that they need. So that you understand that process, the 7 classes that were selected for the students prior to the change to the 4x4 flex are still in place. An 8th class will be added at the end of this first semester in 4th period. That class will be determined in conjunction with the parents and students and the school administration so that students will be able to get continued support, so they will be able to maybe earn more dual enrollment credits or more industry-based certifications. So that flex time for 4th period this first half of the year actually will be a benefit. We will be able to remediate for students who may have lost some knowledge during this last time when we left in March and maybe need some extra support to catch up. Considering all the limitations that we have for that, we just know that we'll be able to allow for not only students who are going Core 4, but for our Jumpstart students as well to complete the industry-based certifications that they need. Right now in our district, across the district, on average, around 50% of our students do graduate in the Jumpstart program. They still have national standards that have to be met as far as times with hands-on practice in order to earn the industry-based certifications. And so this schedule will allow us to have those students not only meet those needs, but be able to earn the industry-based certifications for graduation. This schedule also helps us to reinforce the safety considerations, as Mr. Sedalis spoke to earlier. Arrival and dismissal adjustments by school allows for proper temperature checks. So we will have students entering at different times. Principals will be calling students, especially those who do not arrive on the bus, to let you know, if by last name, a time frame in which you should arrive. So that way not all students are arriving at the same time before the bell rings and we have students who are kind of bogged up at the door. We want to make sure that we have safety measures in place for best practices. Also, with having 4 periods a day, we will have less transition time, as far as we will have maybe 6 transitions throughout that day, and that will allow us to add more time to the transition period. Travel patterns will be established in the schools to help maintain social distancing in the hallways and through transition times. Also in cafeteria practices, we will make sure that students are socially distanced and only a certain number of students will be in the area at one time. The split lunch periods will allow for proper hand washing times and food distribution. And that was another consideration. I had a parent ask me, why do we not have students coming AA, off Wednesday, and then group BB? There were a couple considerations for that for 6 through 12. One of that was that if we did something like that, we may not see a student for 5 to 6 days between contact as far as instructionally assisting them. Another concern for that is for food preparation and distribution. When students come for their A day, if they're an A student, they will receive 2 meals to take home with them in order to cover that Tuesday and Wednesday. Our B students will receive 2 meals to take home until they come back for their next visit. It would be very difficult to send students home with 4 days worth of food or 3 days worth of food, depending on if they were an A or B group, if we did them together. So there were some other considerations as to why we selected AB, off AB. On that Wednesday, students will be allowed to ask for extra assistance. There will be time for them to call, contact the teachers and instructors that they have for their courses. They will also be able to have Zoom meetings or team meetings with their students so that they can work towards meeting the instructional requirements. Again, that 4th flex you can see here in our sample schedule will allow us to do extra things that were not normally planned, but now we will be able to do to assist students in order to achieve graduation purposes and requirements. I just want you to know that for the 9-12 schedule that it's very important to us that we do not only ensure the safety of our students, that we ensure that they reach their graduation requirements. And we want to make sure that once they do graduate from St. Mary Parish, that they're able to go on either post-secondary or to work and be successful.
Thank you, Dr. Fagenbush. One other important consideration for the reopening of school is our special groupings of students. How will they return to school and have some success? What kind of organizational setup will we provide for them to try to offer them a successful return to school? And to talk about one of those special groupings, we have Ms. McClarty, who's our special services supervisor. So she's going to go through just a few of the considerations that we've provided for the return of special education students to our school campuses.
Thank you, Dr. Bagwell. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the parents who I've been fielding a lot of calls from parents concerning their students. I appreciate that. Continue to call, because if you don't call and find out what's going to happen, we're not going to have our kids back at school. And I want our kids back at school. All students in grades K through 5 who are enrolled in special education will report to school daily and follow their normal schedules, adhering to the CDC guidelines, which we have talked about here this evening, and Bulletin 1741, Chapter 4. We have done everything and then continue to do things to make the school environment safe for all children, not just my children, all children. So I want parents to understand that. All students in grades 6 through 12 will follow the Phase 2 hybrid schedule, just like Dr. Fagenbush just talked about. Students will be issued a mobile device, so I don't want you to say, oh, well, they don't have a mobile device. We will be giving them mobile devices for that learn-at-home days that they're not on campus. Students will have access to digital content and instructional activities to remain engaged on those learn-at-home days. The students may attend school on all of the student contact days. I want you to understand that just because they're going to go AB and AB, the students who are in resource may attend school all those days. Now, some students with support activities will be conducted through an online platform, and that's on an individual basis, because we must remember that those IEPs are individualized. So we have to take each case and work through that appropriately. That's best for that individual student. So know that we're doing everything possible to make the learning environment safe so that our kids can learn and move forward. And I thank you for all your comments and questions that you all have been sending to me daily. Thank you.
Recently, this district conducted a parent survey where parents were allowed to answer some questions that provided some important information to us as we plan for the reopening of school, particularly in the respect of what their intentions were for their children. Would they intend for their kids to come back to school on campus? Were they looking at possibly a virtual option for their child? And so one of the things we want to cover tonight is the options for schooling. Obviously, we all know the on-campus traditional schooling educational process. But what you may not be too familiar with is if you were to choose a virtual option, what that might look like, or the homeschool option that has been offered by the state of Louisiana for decades. So I'm going to ask Dr. Fagenbush to just go through some of the aspects of comparing what we have to offer in St. Mary Parish. Again, the traditional come to campus every day, attend class, you all are aware of that. But let's talk a little bit about the virtual option versus dropping a student into a homeschool option. Dr. Fagenbush?
Yesterday, parents in grades K through 12 received JTEX from their school principals asking them to review the Learning Environment Commitment Form that was available on school websites and other places. This commitment form outlines what the virtual learning program will look like for students who choose to go virtually this year. For K through 8, we have asked that you please contact the schools if you are choosing to go virtual. In 9-12, we do have one more step. We're asking that you complete the form to note whether you choose to go virtual or if you are coming to face-to-face hybrid setting. So what does it mean to go virtual? We've had a lot of questions about what is the difference between virtual learning and homeschooling. Virtual learning students will still be a part of their home campus. They will be assigned to their school. They'll be able to participate in extracurricular activities if they choose to do so. Attendance will still be required and monitored and recorded, just as if they were attending school daily. They will be expected to attend school virtually. Students will be assigned work, and for each Monday, it will be checked by someone who will be assigned to them as a virtual teacher on their homeschool site to make sure that they are on track. If they are not, they will be contacted by their virtual school teachers to see if they need assistance, help, and what else may need to be done in order for them to continue. Again, students will be assisted by district teachers, and I think that's very important. The teachers who will be assisting students in the virtual learning program will know the students. They will know the parents. So they will have direct contact with you. In the virtual learning program, you will not be speaking to someone that you've never seen before or who's on the other end of the computer who may not respond to your needs. Homeschool is a little bit different in the fact that students who are homeschooled, you must withdraw from St. Mary Parish School District. You are no longer a student in your homeschool site. Families will be responsible for purchasing and providing curriculum for their children, for purchasing and providing laptops and technology that will be needed for that curriculum. Parents must register with the Louisiana Department of Education. So if someone chooses to go to homeschool, they must go to their school, officially drop from that school site, and then officially enroll in homeschooling with the Louisiana Department of Education. Students may not participate in extracurricular or athletic activities if they are in a homeschool setting in St. Mary Parish. So there is a major difference between the two. In that virtual learning program or environment, if you choose to do so in grades K through 8, at the end of the first 9 weeks, you may determine that you would like a stronger face-to-face setting for your students and for your child, and they need to go back. And that would be possible if you enter the virtual learning program versus homeschooling. In the homeschool environment, you may not always complete the Carnegie credits or the credit that a student is earning in K-8. It's very difficult for them to come back and match what is happening on that school setting. The best option is for our children to remain in their home schools with the teachers who know them, the administrators who know them, so that we can continue to support them as they thrive through this issue.
Thank you, Dr. Fegenbush. As we close this evening, I want to remind you of a couple of things. Number one, our school system is here to offer a quality education to every child. We're committed and dedicated to doing that. There is no replacement for learning from a classroom with a teacher who is monitoring your child every day, at every moment, at every glance, to give your child feedback on how they're doing, how they're learning, and the degree to which they might need to relearn something. In order to provide that quality of education, we are following every guideline and every update that is provided to us either by Governor Edwards or by Bessie or by the Louisiana Department of Education. Because part of wanting your children to learn and grow in St. Mary Parish schools is making sure that they're healthy, making sure they're taken care of. And we want to partner with you in that effort. Parents, it's a scary time. It is a tumultuous time. It is a time of a lot of unknowns, and we understand that, which is why we're trying to offer various options for education as we reopen the 2020-21 school year. Whether that is your choice to bring your kids back to campus or whether it's your choice to have them go virtual, we're here to support you. We're here to make sure that your decision is fulfilled and that your kids get the best education possible from St. Mary Parish Schools. I do want to remind you that school is set to open on August 7th. If there are any adjustments in that time frame, you will be notified by local media, by a J-text from your child's school, and also information on district websites. So any adjustments or any revisions, we will keep you informed as best we can through various options. We will meet again here next Wednesday at 5:30. Next week, we'll discuss in detail the technology that will be offered to students, not only for those who are considering the virtual option, who at that point would be committed to the virtual option, but also for you students who are on campus in class. The technology piece of education is something that we have worked a lot to develop, and we want to go over that information with you. And we'll also review some of the things that we've discussed already, and then offer you any updates that we might have received over the past week. So thank you for joining us this evening, and we really appreciate your support in helping to educate your children.
And again, thanks for joining us for this week's Welcome Back to School Forum. Please join us again next Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. For our next forum on KQKI 95.3 FM and on the KQKI Digital Video Network, including KQKInews.com, KQKI Facebook page, and YouTube channel. Also, the St. Mary Parish School Board will meet in special session tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. The board will consider and adopt policies and procedures for the impending reopening of schools. KQKI will provide live coverage of the meeting on the KQKI Digital Video Network. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope you and your family have a wonderful evening.